gosh. There we are. 5, 4, 3, 2, and here we are. Oh, what a fun day it is. I'm really excited. There's so many things in my life that have come together to create incredible magic. I remember back in 1980-ish when I was in a jazz band in junior high, way back when,
Wow.
and enamored with the the feeling of music, the sound of music, and a great teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what, Nancy? I just thought of this. I was in the band when I was in junior high too. My music teacher was Mr. Newton, and I played the woodwind quartet. I played the bass clarinet, and we had a woodwind quartet with three of my other best friends, and we were like rocking.
Oh, for sure, for sure. We all thought we were rock stars at one time or another. Right? And there's beauty in music. There's beauty in performing. There's beauty in so many things. And I was blessed to meet Rick a little bit, like that. He was one of the players on the screen when Liz was bringing us all together to celebrate a wonderful year of tea. Daphne and I knew Liz through a writing experience. Yeah. So Daphne wrote in the first book of Sacred Hearts Rising.
Yeah.
And then we were both in 2.
Yep.
I was in 4. Were you in 3?
No, I was just in 1 and 2.
Okay, and I was in 2 and 4. So yeah.
So 1 through 4.
Yeah, 1 through 4.
I was just in 1 and 2, and then I wrote my own book. So, and just like you're writing your own book now.
I am.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, Liz really is bringing people together she's connecting people that really need to be connected to each other. That's what I think is so wonderful about her, because they're all very special. There's something it's almost like going to an Al-Anon meeting. I've only been to one, okay? But when I walked into the room, I was like, I don't need to even talk to these people because I know that they know that they know that I know that I know that they know. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yes.
there's so much of this, like, there's just so much, I know that your story is similar because, it's, for anyone who doesn't know, it's for people who have alcoholics in their family, not themselves. And, I didn't even know about it. Someone told me, and I just went to one of them, and I was like, it was spooky. It was almost like ghostly because you could just you didn't need to say anything. I mean, if somebody wants to say something, fine, but we could all sat there and been silent and all understood each other. And I kind of felt like with Miss Liz, with all those little boxes, I was looking at you guys while I was playing, and I'm like, those are all people. I see this wholesome connection within all of them, this wholesome spirit that all of them have, and they're all connected through her. I just think it's great what she's doing.
It's magical. It really truly is. I went to 1.5 Koanon meetings. So that's for those who have people in their lives who are using cocaine. And very similar. I took the book home and then I returned it at the second meeting. I needed to journey independently. It wasn't the right vibe for me. Great people, great opportunity.
Yeah.
But we find our people along the way in the divine synchronicity of life. It's pretty special. It really is.
Now that's called Koanon?
Koanon. Yeah, Koanon. So Koanon.
I never even knew about that. I never knew about that.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't know they got so specific, But yeah, I mean, there's Nicotine Anonymous, but that's not for family members. That's for the actual. I didn't know they got so specific in in that world. That's wild. That's interesting. But no, well, I mean, the thing about Miss Liz is that it's all people that have this spiritual. They all something spiritual awakened about everyone that she is surrounding her. So that's what it is. And that I can do multiple times. I could be around you guys like over and over, I kind of got everything I needed just looking at these people for an hour and that other thing. But that was really, no, that's very specifically, this one is all of you people are all growing together. You found something, like you found your inner spirit, and you're growing together. And I could just, I could feel all that energy from all those people. It was really interesting.
Connection. Connection is so powerful. Whether it's the words on a page or the musical notes, there is just so much. And like writing for me is, if I don't write for a few days, I'm not the best possible version of myself.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Yeah.
Rick, can I ask you,
Yeah.
because this is the first time I've met you. So what is it about music that lights you up so much? And do you care to share what got you into music and why you love playing music so much?
What was interesting was I was very young, and I was with a piano just like I am now. And I was just finding that I was able to enter into a space that was special, and it was unique, and it was personal, and it was potentially endless. You know what I mean? So I was able to do that, and I was like, wow, this is wild. And I found myself having to literally try to go and do what the other kids were doing, because I kind of knew I should, but I kind of had a hunch that I had found something like that might be better, or better in most instances. And there was a lot of times where I would go out, on the Friday night or whatever, to do the whole thing with the kids, with the young kids and all that. And great, glad I did it. But, I was like, that wasn't better than where I was. That, I was able to find a space that was really good. And like I said, oftentimes better than what was being offered to me, the options. You know what I mean? Sometimes that was just like an incredible option, and it was inspiring me in numerous ways. It was challenging me intellectually, challenging me spiritually, challenging me to find myself, or to find myself as a musician, or as an artist, or all that stuff. And then you're channeling, through the piano. You've got all these peoples that come from so many centuries back. This is an interesting time we're in. I've never been on a podcast where you're going to see these, because that's my window there. So the light is changing. Usually it's a different time, because you're in the mountain zone. So that's why
we're in the mountain zone.
Yeah. So I rarely do a podcast at this hour, but anyway, so you'll see these little,
the beauty of the light.
I don't mind. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's cool. It's very interesting.
There's sound and light as well.
It's unique, and maybe it's an accompaniment to my story. But I was getting this sort of deal, like, wow, I have this is kind of a strange opportunity, of me. And it was kind of a safe space, because when the rest of the family members knew that I was at the piano, I wasn't really available, like, oh, Rick, it's time to rake leaves, whatever it was, so it was kind of a safe space. And it just had that sort of situation where I kind of knew, I can kind of figure things out here. I can be stimulated intellectually. There's just all kinds of, like, what do you call it? Little senses, that are coming to me.
Can I get you to put your hands up again? Because your hand is light on the side that your face is dark, and vice versa.
I've never looked in. Yeah, I've never seen this on a podcast. I mean, this is like, you could take you could do a Warhol with this, right?
Yes. Yes.
You could do a screenshot and then Xerox it 15 times and then show it at the Met.
It also reminds me of one of the Marvel, a nemesis of Spider-Man.
Look at how it's so evenly.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this is a total first, you guys.
I think it's showing the total. I think it's showing the total balance, and that's what the music does for you.
You're absolutely right. There was this equilibrium sort of balance, and that's what I was finding. uh, and I was like, this looks like a well that I can draw from,
Mhm.
continuously. You know what I mean? I was just noticing it. I wasn't writing it down or jotting notes or, whatever, but I was just noticing subliminally, like, this is like a well with water in it, for so to speak, in numerous areas. So that's what it was that drew me to music. The other thing was the problem of the fact that, all the kids at school liked rock music and all that, and so did I. And that would be fun to just be a rock musician and get all the girls or whatever and make all this money. But then I was being exposed to, Chopin and Bach and all these great, people. And I was like, that stuff, wow, I was playing a piece by Chopin. I'm like, wow, a prelude where there was just a couple, like the melody was two notes and the harmony was changing. And it was just, and I was feeling Chopin. I was feeling this man in the 1800s and what he was going through and the poignancy of it and the So this was just why I'm like, wow, I can't turn my back on that. And then I kind of discovered jazz and I'm like, oh, I'm in big trouble here. I'm in way over my head and I'm just going to have to swim in these waters. And this is just, it's going to be endless. I'm never going to get through. And it's just going to be a journey.
I have two questions. First question, do you know how to play canon on your piano? And second question is, Nancy, isn't this a great way for us to talk about different ways for how people have discovered things that work for them for their own mental health?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, canon and D, preferably.
Canon and D. Well, I'll tell you something. I don't really remember. I don't remember the actual, pieces that I learned as a classical piano player at, when I was a kid and all that. I still have them in my memory. But I have a guy. Are you guys in Canada or you're somewhere on the west,
Yes.
right? In Canada?
Yeah, we're in
There's
Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh my God. There's a guy in Canada. He's got like 4 podcasts and he wants me to have me on one because of the book that we're going to be talking about. He has book 101. This guy's book, but he also has geography 101 and he had me on for music 101. And then he just kept going. Now he wants, cause he says the book, you got to come on for book 101. But anyway, he's, his name is Daniel Lucas. And what he does is just wild because once he found out I was in front of a piano, he got really carried away. And all the things I do are free improvisations for this sort of situation with Julian Assange, where I'm trying to stand up for, freedom of speech and freedom of, people to write what they see, the journalists, not jailing them, blah, 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 for telling the truth. And also, not bombing civilians, I'm getting so famous for failing. I wanted to solve these problems so long ago, and I'd rather no one know who I am and the problems have been solved. Instead, I'm becoming more relevant because everyone knows I've been screaming at the top of my lungs for these, to address these problems for so long. Anyway, this guy, Daniel, he's a character. You got to check him out. He will get me on his podcast, and he's like, he just can't help himself. He's like, because he'll ask me, okay, what's the difference between Bach and Beethoven? And I'll say, well, you have to realize Bach, these canons you're talking about, they didn't even have a piano. So he didn't have a piano. He never played a piano. Bach doesn't know what a piano is. So when you hear Bach's music, you have to realize the piano had not been invented. All this was on a harpsichord that had no it had no sustain. It had no pedal. It didn't have a sustain pedal. It didn't have touch. It didn't have touch sensitivity. So we don't know what Bach's music would have been like because there was no piano. We wouldn't know. So we're playing Bach's music on a piano before the piano was invented. Anyway, then I tell him, okay, but when Beethoven came around, it was the Romantic era and this, and I tell him the difference. Now he goes, okay, I want you to play a free improvisation of Bach. Channeling Bach and Beethoven. So I could do something for you, channeling the idea of a canon.
I would love that.
All right, so that's what we'll do.
Is that okay, Nancy?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's see what happens. I have no idea. I have no idea what will happen.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, so beautiful. So absolutely beautiful. I wonder, I asked my brother this years ago. I'll tell you about him a little bit more in detail, but do you ever connect the energy body of the chakra within the music that you create? Is there an awareness of that?
Well, I was on a podcast. Actually, it's a guy that I ski with in mountain time. I'm going to be in mountain time in about 5 days. I'm going to be in
Oh,
Utah. And there's a friend that I ski with, and he has a podcast, and it's called Life with Breath, and it's all about breathing and chakra and all this kinds of stuff. And uh, I have, I would see him with some of my other ski bum friends, doing this stuff. They do these wild exercises and this breathing stuff and all this kind of thing. And I relate to it because I've checked it out, I've studied it, I've been to classes and all that stuff. But I do have an internal clock that I'm connecting to. So in other words, when I see them do it, I relate. I relate. I don't, it's not, okay, that's not exactly what I'm doing, but it's the same result. You know what I mean? You're getting to an internal clock. There's internal time.
mhm.
There's like meter going on in my, there's internal time, there's internal meter. And when he had me on his podcast, he was like, how do you could do all these different tempos? And I was telling him that I can, because I've played with so many different musicians, I'll actually go into a certain groove and envision how a specific drummer or a specific bass player would play that groove with me. And I'll be able to literally place them in my, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'll be able to
Mhm.
place them here it with us. I'll be able to like play like I'll grab like George Benson's bass player and place him here, and this other guy I know in Harlem who we did a thing together for HBO once, and I'll just and I will play with you as if they are in their time zone. You know what I mean? But only for those minutes, because then I'll switch over and I'll be in another guy who maybe played with Cecil Taylor and was an avant-garde thing, and I'll bring him in You know what I mean? So that will affect, so I'm, there's something going on there that relates to what you guys are talking about with chakra and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, because that's where techno music I find intriguing at times.
Okay.
Because the lights quite often will match the music. So, and the
Right.
chakra system is lights. So if the lights
Uh-huh.
match the music, it can be intertwined in a certain way. So the reason I asked my brother that question was his music changed and evolved, and it was during a time period whereby there was a loss in our family.
Mhm.
And I said, something's changed with your music. And he's like, yeah, and couldn't articulate it. And I said, do you think it's Emily? And Emily is his niece, my daughter, and she passed
Okay.
away. And he's like, oh my God, sis, I've never thought about that before. But being able to connect with a divine energy in whatever way that it was. Because like you said, that Chopin and Bach plus the energetics of the 3D experience, because the 3D physical body, as opposed to the 5 and above dimensions where we can't see spirit, but spirit is here. It's that extra, the sparkles.
Right. Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, there was a couple of things I was thinking while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it was like even when you were talking, you were making me think of other things, relative to that. So yeah. I mean, it just like that guy I was telling you who does that, like what you did, Canon. I was just thinking of Canon. If you said something else, it would be completely different. You know what I mean? You could, if you said Jimi Hendrix, it would be completely, you know what I mean? Or you could say anything, and I would just, yeah, it would become so.
Yeah.
So the music that could come out could be so, and then that's just the start. So that your word would start me off in there, and then these lights coming in would start playing a part of it. Your energy that I'm feeling from you, all of these kinds of things would play a part in what comes out, from that point. But the other thing I was going to say was, with regards to your brother, I was watching something recently about Picasso and his blue period. I don't know if you're familiar
Mm.
with. Oh, you are familiar. Okay, because basically, he had that crazy situation where his best friend just blew his head off at a table with all these people when he was in another town, but just invited all these people to a gathering and shot himself in the head. And Picasso went into a deep funk and literally was, I mean, he was painting things that were not sellable. They were not, nobody would buy them in that, you know what I mean? They had no commercial viability. They were all blue. He wouldn't
Yeah.
get out of and he stayed that way for a long time. And it wasn't until he came out of that he evolved. But that personal style, that became a part of his personal style and the evolvement of his style. But he did, because of that incident, go into a situation where it, profoundly affected his painting. I mean, he couldn't paint anything except the remorse, things that were related to that remorseness for a couple of years, I think. And basically, I mean, people were bringing over food. I mean, he was painting himself into, a corner financially too,
Oh, for sure. Disconnection.
Yeah, I heard. I mean, this is what the documentary was saying, but they were just saying, he was blew through all whatever, he was his savings. He was just, he just couldn't function in society from the being overwhelmed with grief.
They didn't have a lot of mental health back
They
back
did not have
mental health.
shows like. First thing I would have done was send them over to your podcast.
Well, and we've come from a period, I call it the great time out, whereby we were all sent to our rooms and we
Right.
were not allowed to come out until we were allowed to come out. And that disconnection, the social isolation, the loneliness, and those feelings of powerlessness, I think
Mm-hmm.
are what you expressed so well with explaining his experience. Because we've all, 2020, we've all experienced so much of
Yeah.
the pain disconnection.
And I think it's really wonderful how each and every one of us has the different skills and tools that we use for ourselves to get through our days. Because for me, my skills are different than yours, and yours, Rick and Nancy. You know, we each figured out what we need to do for us, and then we share with others. And Rick, we love hearing your music. It's beautiful. But like Nancy, you channel as well, right? And I mean, I do too. But we all channel different things, and we all share different knowledge and wisdom with each other to help people with that, you know, that have been disconnected or lonely, you know, to bring community together in collaboration.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think Rick was talking about earlier as well is that the authenticity is so important, and the ability to have a sovereign right to say, be, speak, hear, write, so many things. But we've all struggled with that. I mean, come on, we all tried to fit in at one time or another. You were talking about it earlier.
Oh,
It didn't
there's no
work well
doubt
for
about
me either.
what? Say it again.
I said fitting in didn't work for me either.
Well, you know, ultimately it doesn't work for anybody because we are, you know, at some point or other, we come to the realization that if we want to be who we really are, we're going to be very similar to a tree. There's no two trees that are alike. I mean, if you don't, there's never been. I mean, how many trees, think about it, going all the way back to
Wow.
whenever, and
Wow.
there's never been an identical twin tree on the planet Earth, right? That we know of. So,
Trees aren't conditioned. I mean, they're pruned, but they aren't conditioned. They aren't told how to behave.
well,
I don't
you
think.
know, but it's funny because we at Jazz for Peace we pattern our entire fundraising model out of a tree, and we call it an empowerment tree. And what we basically say is, you know, we have this concept for the roots of your tree, you know, this fundraising model, and you follow the same things. You know, it's the same thing that a tree would grow, you know, with water and the photosynthesis and the roots and all that. And it's the same thing with us. It's, you know, gathering your core, your core board members or supporters or people that are behind you, and then the core roots, and then expanding them, you know, and then you get above ground. And now with this core group, you have a confirmed Jazz for Peace event. You know, let's say in what city are you in Canada?
Edmonton.
Edmonton. Whoa, that's a hockey town. So didn't Wayne Gretzky, right? Was he play for them?
Yes. He was
Okay.
actually, he got married when he played for them here.
Yes, I think that was his main. Like that was where he really, you know, blew up. Right, playing for the Edmonton. Oh yeah. Anyway,
So Rick, you were telling us about your foundation. Can you please explain to us what that is about? Because I don't know.
okay, so you know, basically, what happened was, well, before I was telling you, I'm sitting at the piano at a very young age. I knew that this could be a journey unto itself, a separate journey from, you know, from playing with the kids or hanging out or doing the stuff I do at school or whatever. This is like a whole separate journey that I have, and it's a good one. It's like a nourishing one. It's there's all good things coming from it. And so one thing would just lead to another. And by the time 9/11 came, that day came where I was here in New York, but even closer to the World Trade Center at that time, and watching it from the roof of my building. I had already traveled all around the world, and I had already learned that, you know, music had an extraordinary magical ability to cut through every kind of possible barrier that known to mankind, you name it, you know, religion, it'll cut through, language, I mean, creed, color, I mean, everything, it'll just cut through. So I knew all that. And then what happened was I wrote a poem watching those events called Jazz for Peace. And I ended up in a situation where one thing led to another. Now you got this poem. What are you going to do now? Well, I don't know. I I have a jazz festival coming up down in Savannah, Georgia, headlining for like 8,000 people. I guess I'll recite the poem, So go, you did that. Now what are you going to do now? Well, you're going to put it to music, Well, I'll put it to music and I'll play it on this. Then these articles came out. What are you going to do now? Well, I'll start, maybe a few Jazz for Peace concerts around the, New York City, and just, do a few of those. And then, one thing led to another. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, you can help outstanding causes with, with this thing. And now you're really living up to the words of the poem. You're doing something, you're doing something. What happened was I would try something out and then I would get a letter, a glowing testimonial, and I was like, wow, maybe I'll try it again, and I'd get another one. And I just kept getting these letters from these organizations that we were helping, insisting that even if I thought I wasn't helping them, they would like override me, no, you helped us, dude. That's sorry. I don't care what you say. We were able to get this, we were able to get, and I was like, really, you were able to, your supporters came together. Wow, maybe I can expand on that and show them how to, you know what I mean? Expand their donor base. I could, because they told me they did. I'm like, wow, I could do even better. I could do this, I could do that. And then you got a couple of sponsors. What? Oh, damn, I could help you guys get like 5 or 6 of them in the local community. So it's just one thing after another. And then I'm like, this is all very similar to a tree. I noticed that, where starting out, you have to have a confirmed event. Well, you have to have roots. You know what I mean? You can't grow a tree without roots. I can't get sponsors for you. I can't get new and prestigious supporters for you. I can't get publicity for you if I don't have an event. So we need like a tree needs roots. We need a confirmed event. And how do you get a confirmed? Yeah. Well, how do you get it?
Collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you get a confirmed event? Well, the first thing you do is, you've got somebody at an outstanding cause that, let's say, watching your, they watch your thing up. They watch this podcast, oh, I want to do that. Now I've got, okay, well, we got to get this event confirmed. How are we going to do that? Well, here's what we'll do. We'll create a way for you to communicate this, and I'll work with you, or Jazz for Peace will work with you. Show you how we've done it with other people, the Red Cross, this one, that one. And we'll, a little 1 page or something so that you can show this to, board members or volunteers or supporters, whatever it is, fans. If you're a musical thing, if you're a painter, you could show it to your the people who love your paint, whatever it is. And now that gets them on board. Okay, listen, we would commit to this. Absolutely. I mean, I've wanted to help you anyway, but Jazz for Peace is going to come in and do the heavy lifting, and I'm just going to show up and be a VIP. Sounds great. So now we use that to get a confirmed event with supporters and people that are going to expand it to and all of that. And these people are part of it. Little do they realize they literally get paid to attend when all is said and done, because they're the VIPs and they're the ones that are going to get, when we get the sponsors, it's going to be them that are getting that free food, that free wine, the gift bag. You know what I mean? So they're actually going to get paid at the end of the day, but they're helping us now confirm the event. And to their shock and dismay, they're going to realize they actually owe the guy. They owe the person who invited them, because they actually got paid to come after they added up all the things they received. But anyway, that's fine too, because now they kind of owe the organ. They're like, Jesus, I'm going to write you a check in addition to this. Anyway, we use that to get the event confirmed. So now we have a confirmed event. That's the same as the roots of a tree. Now branches can grow because you have roots. Now branch number 2, which is, now we can get a venue because we have a date. We have a confirmed event. Now we can go to the other steps. Once you have those things, now you can utilize techniques that we've used. They're all things that we've tried with other organizations and succeeded at. So we're taking successful techniques that we've already pulled off. Hey, we tried this with this thing out in Boise, Idaho. It worked really well. What do you guys think? Would it work for you? And we just run it by you. Well, I don't know. Let's try that one, and see. The bottom line is some organizations are going to get sponsors up the wazoo, and maybe we won't do so great in the new and prestigious supporters. Maybe there's no celebrities in their town or whatever it is. Others are going to maybe not so well on this. So the bottom line is, every tree is going to be completely unique. The event is going to have it's almost like every podcast is kind of unique. It's almost like what we're doing today. I don't think you're going to see it on any other podcast. And I've done like 150. So it's the same thing. It's, it's that uniqueness. It's all of that. But again, it's patterned after a tree. And that's how we do it. We call it the empowerment tree. And we just got letter after letter after letter. There's we don't even have it on the jazzforpeace.org site because there's so much stuff. So it's on jazzforpeace.wordpress.com, and then that site you can click, click on number 1, and you'll just see, all these letters from hundreds and hundreds of organizations that we've helped, all over the world. I mean, we've been to Canada. But, we've been to Mexico. I mean, we've been to Brazil. We've been to Africa 9 times. Yeah, I mean, just everywhere.
You know what's funny is the first chapter I ever wrote for any book was called Roots.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that was in the Sacred Hearts Rising. You're right, Daph. It was called Roots.
And that's what I talked about. Life is roots.
It is, it goes way back long before there were any of us, there were any people. And what's interesting is there's jazzforpeace.org/roots.pdf. And that's where we would send people if they're like, hey, what are all the different ways that you have confirmed these events, and they can see them all. We have the one that we really like the best, which is the one I was telling you, just getting those core people turned on and knowing what Jazz for Peace is, who already love your cause. And but there are planning I think it says 5 winning roots planning techniques. Anyway, you can't grow a tree without roots, and it's the same thing with these events.
Well, and we have so much opportunity available in the world as long as we are willing to champion for what it is that we want to change. We can be champions of change, or we can simply be complaining, whining wankers. And it's up to the individual. There's so many organizations that have failed to succeed because they don't use the templates that are available. You were just talking about a beautiful template.
Exactly. And and that brings up such a fractal, which you could do it with recovery. You could do it with, life. You could do it with an outstanding cause. And that is these little things that we get caught up in perspective. I mean, a lot of times, I have to remind myself every day, hey, wait a minute, that's a perspective of the populace or the public or the people. You see a document. I mean, have you ever seen a documentary on one of these people that you thought had everything, right?
Oh.
I mean, it's a nightmare. I mean, Matthew Perry is a poster boy for it, right? I mean, he was a person who, apparently he was sitting in a room once and he thought, if I could only be boom, boom, boom. And he became every single one of those. And, it was the worst thing that could have happened, in terms of, what it didn't solve any problem. So there are those issues where, we're sabotaging ourselves, you know what I mean? And then there are other issues where we're not embracing the opportunity of adversity, the opportunity of sadness, the opportunity of closure, of finality, of this, of that, and then we find out way later, oh my God, that was the greatest opportunity ever. Too bad I didn't know it back then. So that's the other thing. There's these issues where, we have an opportunity, we're not where we need to be at that moment in time. And if we can get ourselves straight, and if we can tweak ourselves, like you guys are learning, you guys are studying with what you do to that frame of mind, the chakra and all that stuff, that creates that openness. Now, it's almost like when I sat and played for you, then I had that. Now, wouldn't that be great? If I had 24 hours of that, I'd save the whole world. But
we start with ourselves. That's where it starts.
You know what? If you have a little spot where you allow, like you guys are talking about with chakra, like people who meditate, that's what I'm doing at the piano. It's that little spot where the stream of the universe is flowing, and you're not stopping it. Nothing can stop it. you know? So that's how I relate to these things you guys are talking about and so many other people, because it's all the same thing. It's all that connection where this natural stream flows. There's no subliminal message for a toothpaste company interrupting you.
True that. True that. Gosh, yeah, I struggle with commercials a lot. We tend to mute them in our home so that I don't go too far off the rail in just
Right.
a microsecond. But connection is our neurobiology. It's what we were created for. It's why children are it's so important to have that skin to skin connection when a child is born, to help with that, because each and every one of us has gone through some form of disconnection, the opposite of peace.
Yes,
Yeah,
sure.
the opposite of peace. I mean, you were talking about Al-Anon. I was talking about Koanon.
Mhm.
Daphne, you talk about near-death experiences. There's so many, and we can really get stuck on our platform.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can get stuck where you are.
Well, and
yeah,
like Rick was talking about how things happen, and at the time we don't see the beauty in what happened. And Rick, you don't necessarily know this about me, but when I was 15, I was in a near fatal car accident and had a near death experience, but I wasn't supposed to make it, and apparently I did. So
You crossed over there? Did you cross over for a little?
I was, yeah. There's a whole long story. I don't know if we need to go into that today, but I mean, yes, I was in a car accident. I suffered a massive closed head brain injury. I was on life support for 2 weeks. I was in a coma for 18 days. And when I was in that coma, I was actually on the other side.
Wow.
But there's a whole long story that goes along with that.
Mm.
And at the time, I didn't see the beauty in it because I was a teenager. I was the most athletic being I could have been at the time. And thank God for that, because I was able to come back and rehabilitate.
Wow.
But now, over 30 years later, I see the beauty in that experience of where it has brought me and all the different things I've learned and the empathy and the, being able to support others. So I get what I'm just saying, I get what you're saying.
Well, yeah, because I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, you can things can go two different directions, and you have taken it like in a direction that, well, if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be able to offer all of this stuff. And so that is, that's part of the that's what's so amazing to me. To me, that's the magic of life. When I see somebody do exactly what you're talking about, and I see somebody do that where they go through an adversity, and because of that adversity, now that's what makes them so special, and I know you're doing it with your thing, I know you both have that going on. I know that.
Well, and that's where, Nancy mentioned, you got to take care of yourself first.
Right.
And that's what I did, is I took care of myself first.
Mhm.
I'm still on a healing journey. Everybody is while we're here.
Sure.
We're all healing from something.
Mhm.
But I take the tools that I used for myself and I share them with others, just like Nancy, you know what I mean? And you and your wisdom sharing with other organizations as well. And that circles back to the connection and collaboration.
Yeah, it does. And I can't imagine you without going. I'm so sorry you went through it, but I can't imagine you without it, because to me, that's part of the reason why you're, one of the Liz group or whatever, you know what I mean? Like one of those people, you're both two of those people that to me are, I don't know if you were there that day. I know Nancy was, but
I was. Daph wasn't there. No.
Yeah. So, but you're one of the little squares too. You know what I mean? What are those little? It almost seemed like I was on. What's that TV show? Remember the TV show? Hollywood Squares, right?
Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, and you would have fit perfectly in the Hollywood Squares with Nancy.
Great people, great people, just great people. And when we continue to spend more time with great people, we feel better. Then we're reaching for a better feeling place, and that's where the exponential joy aspect comes from. David Hawkins, I believe, was the man who wrote Power versus Force. So I took a very big book and reduced it to a simplicity where you take joy, which joy to the power of 10, is
Okay.
exponential joy. And when you
Okay.
multiply that over and over and over, it's the largest, it's a nano equation. And when you enter a place whereby you are able to be in a better feeling place of more joy, you can deal with the heartbreak of life that happens, because you will always have obstacles, you will always have challenges. How are you going to deal with that, sunshine?
Well, and
Right.
I love it when people ask me what I do. I just simply smile and I say, I do what makes me happy.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
It
you can come
confuses
along
lots
for
of
the
people.
ride. You
Pardon
can
me?
But I mean, if you're doing that, you're already got most of us beat. You know what I mean? And you can, because so many of us would just, so many of us could just use the energy of someone who is happy to, to pull us up a little bit, or
It
whatever.
does. It pulls you up, but then when you're away from it,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the problem can come from. Because if you
Exactly.
don't know how to deal with it yourself, one of the things that I found when you played your music is you the authenticity of what you do. Because
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism, another type of trying to fit in, it's quite often a threat to success, because we don't publish, or we don't complete that piece of work because it's just not good enough, because we're
Right.
measuring it against something that's already been completed. That
Well,
other
yeah, what you brought up is major, because again, you're using something to sabotage you. You're sabotaging. The perfection is not in the perfection. That's the whole thing. Trying to be perfect is not where the perfection lies.
Mhm.
The perfection lies in the beauty of the honesty and you know what I mean? The allowing. You have to allow, you have to consider, I mean, if you're writing too, it's the same thing. I would think you have to consider something coming through you that's
Yes.
bigger than you. So if you're trying to be perfect, you're missing the point already, because you need help from something greater, this energy that we're talking about, whatever it is that we all believe in, but this energy is greater than, why, we all three of us know that this power of positive energy is greater than any individual, so you have to let that stuff come in. um, and I mean, what's really strange right now and just bizarre is, like, I'm sitting here because my journey has taken me through a situation where I'm sitting here and staring at a solution to that crazy situation going on in the Middle East. And I'm just staring at a solution to it. And what's really strange is Jazz for Peace has made a proposal for the solution, and we're not even getting any pushback. I mean, we're like, do you guys have any questions? And then someone will ask a question and we'll answer it because it's on a frequently asked question. And then I'm like, so what's your next question? And they're like, I don't have any more questions. You guys have solved that problem.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah, but how's it going to get implemented? I mean, I have solved the world's biggest problem. I have the answer for it. I can tell you in 2 seconds. And why, you know what I mean? Like, are we going to just sit there? I mean, it's just crazy. It's like having a
Small
spark.
community.
It's like a Rolls Royce that has a spark plug missing. And I get, here's a spark plug. Just put it in there. You're not going to put it in there. We're all going to sit here. Like, what are we going to? Here's the spark. No, it's got to go. That's all you got to do. And
Solutions.
it's very strange.
Well, that's where the grassroots, the small communities, quite often are able to do a lot more than a large organization. Too many cooks in the kitchen kind of concept, I think.
Listen, I'm going to run it by you, and you tell me. You be the devil's advocate. All right. So what Jazz for Peace has in mind is very simple. It's allowing Palestinian and Israelis. They're supposed to hate each other, right? They didn't hate each other when I played with them at the United Nations. I know that on that day, but they're supposed to be at war, right? Israeli Palestine at war. Supposedly the people are at war, right? Except a lot of people are getting arrested in Israel because they don't even want the war without what I'm bringing to the table. Anyway, the people, Israelis and Palestinians, they vote. They all take a vote together. And what they vote on is the option to take funds that are already allotted for wartime purposes, funds that have been allotted by the United States, funds that have been allotted by different countries, right? It's in the billions. And take that money that's already been allotted, so it's already being spent anyway. So we're going to take it, instead of spending it on these, dropping the bombs or whatever, we're going to funnel it to properly and effectively to outstanding causes, because I've helped over 850 outstanding causes. I happen to know that an outstanding cause that puts their mission first and cares about achievement before profit can do an enormous amount of good. So you take those funds and those outstanding causes that help the common man, the common Israeli who is suffering all kinds of trauma and all kinds of things that Germans suffered back in World War II, through war, and the Palestinians, who we already know, what they're going through as well, and heal all of these people and let them vote. You follow me? So they take a vote, and if they vote yes, both of them now, okay, how the hell are you going to continue a war with two people who just voted against it, who voted it down? So now you've got Israeli people who said, we're voting yes. So now you've got two people who actually voted for the same thing. They voted to have the funds go to outstanding causes that heal the common man, the common Israeli, the common Palestinian.
And that goes back to what you were saying, Nancy, about the grassroots communities being able to.
Well, because what Spirit showed me immediately when you were speaking was two images. They showed me a bottleneck and they showed me a tied balloon.
Okay.
So there's other agendas sometimes.
Those are images that you saw?
Yeah, bottleneck and a tied balloon. There's other players.
Right. But see, here's the thing. You can't say that it's about Israelis and Palestinians if it really isn't. You see what I'm saying? So now you have to say, well, wait a minute. See, here's the problem that would happen. In my vote, okay, and if they voted, if they both in favor, now you have Israelis and Palestinians who just voted for the same thing. Like they just came together the same way that I brought them together at the United Nations. They came together, here on a vote. You know what I mean? So who is forcing this war on people that don't even want it? Now we can go. That's progress. You know what I mean?
That's progress.
Now,
progress.
Yes,
yeah,
that's progress.
Well, and it's like the situation that we have here in Canada.
With those truckers was unbelievable. The truckers.
With them, there'll be a few of those on this coming shows, but it's with fancy socks. We'll just call them fancy socks. Anybody who knows Canada knows what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, the prime minister, the guy, yeah.
Yes. And I mean, here we are in Alberta, and we have pipelines, and we have care systems, and we have profits, and we have so many things, and there are a lot of false prophets.
Well, there was an economic advisor who I used to study economy a lot, because I wanted to kind of see what was going on. Okay. And so there's a handful of those people that I stayed with when I found out when I was doing that study. Some of them would really pop out. And then one of them recently said a couple days ago that 2024 in her eyes is going to be the year of pushback. So when people finally wake up and say, this is way beyond anything that, that I believe in, that fits my spiritual makeup. That's the way I was raised, the way my country led me to believe we were behaving as a country. You know what I mean? This is just too outrageous.
It's the root. It's the root chakra. The root chakra is the foundational. It is the hierarchy of needs. When you take the hierarchy of needs, I studied psychology. When you take the hierarchy of needs, you take away someone's ability to feed their family, pay for their mortgage. When you take away that safety,
right,
people get frustrated and they do more than just bounce in bouncy castles and honk horns. You know, they really do. And as much as we are all for peace, there gets, hey, right, Daff, you know me. I mean, I'm exponential joy and I got a lot of spice.
Well,
But
and I was just going to say, it's amazing how this whole conversation started over here. We talked about this stuff here, but then it's circling back
yeah,
to the roots of the tree,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming up on almost an hour, but that's what it's about. It's about the roots of the tree and each individual being their authentic selves. And
Yeah.
when we can all stand up and shine our light bright to be our
Music.
authentic selves.
How can we argue over music? Well, I mean, have you ever sat in a vehicle for 8 hours with a family?
Right.
There's only so much of I've got three granddaughters, and one of them, she listened to that baby shark thing for a while. I thought I was gonna pull my hair out, right? Like
Wow. Yeah.
baby shark, shark,
Yep.
shark, shark, shark. I found a heavy metal version of it that was better.
Uh-huh. Right.
But it shows me the amazingness of how everything is so intertwined. And like you, Rick, the roots, talking about the roots of everything. And in order to, I mean, the foundation of Daphne's Healing Hands is the roots of what I've experienced in my life. An exponential joy. That's Nancy. That's who she is. And they're all so different, yet they're all so the same.
Yes, because you know what they all do ultimately? They all lead to solutions.
Yep.
They all
Yeah.
lead to solutions because eventually you get out again, you get those roots planted. So now something's growing, and that thing that grows with inside you actually leads to to solutions to problems. And two of them that you mentioned, one of them is exponential function, which is kind of an important thing. But the other one is this situation where you have everyone's worried about and rightfully so. They're worried about AI, they're worried about machines, they're worried about robots, and they're worried about everything taking their jobs. But see, here's the other thing, and where people have to come in and make sure this happens. If you don't, the world has a zillion problems going on, a zillion. And
Right.
why? Because too many people are flipping burgers for 8 hours instead of growing their tree to enable them to be able to be a part of a solution that is passionate to them. And that's what gets that hopeless out of them, is when they become passionate, something that they truly believe in. I know people that love, cats way more than I'll ever, be, there's no, you know what I mean? So let them go and do that,
Yes.
let them do what's passionate. So this thing where, you have these machines that are making the money, good. Let the person who doesn't have to go to that job now get a percentage of those funds that are being earned anyway by a machine. That should get them so that person now can go and help our society and heal our communities and do that thing which is passionate within him to heal those communities. And these are the things that we all have to come together as a species and push forward, because if we do, it's the difference between hopelessness and just massive amounts of joy. Because you think of all the joy that person's going to have finding and following his passion in life, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then enriching his spirit by all the people that he's going to be positively affected through that of which he is passionate about, through the goodwill that he's going to spread with that.
And that is what this show is about, Nancy, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
What
It is.
mental health matters.
Mental health is very important. And as long as we keep on talking about these things, I believe that we are creating that ripple effect.
Yeah,
and not only that, but that is something that could happen exponentially. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? You could see people, just how that it's a small amount that go, and then they get to this level. Okay, I don't have to flip the burger, but that money is here for me. And now, now I'm actually able to get my dream up and running. Maybe I've contacted Jazz for Peace. Maybe I've contacted Nancy, Nance, or Daphne. They've given me advice or help or whatever. Jazz for Peace maybe did something, whatever, however they find their path to get it to the next level. And then exponentially, now it's up and running and it's doing, it's touching tons of people's lives. And then you have other people doing the same at different stages. And you have, an amazing awakening.
Absolutely.
And Rick, thank you for summing that up.
You really nailed it. It was great.
Glad we were able to get to that conclusion. That's quite a good one, right?
The power of and. I can flip a burger and I can go to school.
Right.
Well, that was like I can
do.
I can work at I used to work at the bank and I did other things. Now I just do the other things.
Right. We'll have more and more people doing the other things.
Yeah.
And as they do the other things, they're growing from that other thing. That other thing is growing, and that other thing is so often so beautiful and wonderful.
Right?
Like just
passion.
Yeah, just unbelievably beautiful. And it's been hiding inside them, and now you see it growing and it's like, oh my God, this person's a monster of beauty.
I just had a thought, Nancy. So for your Mental Health Matters podcast, I think it would be great at the end of each podcast to put something out there, for the people that are viewing it to come back with so for this one, I think a good question would be, what's that other thing that you're doing too?
Mm-hmm. What is that other thing? What is the dream? I call it the big dream. What's the big dream? Wake up. Wake up.
Let's get everybody in on it. Everyone, look, you're involved in recovery. The ones who make it out of recovery, it's often a deep spiritual, they find, it's often exactly what we're talking about that ultimately leads them out of it.
We're all addicted to something, Rick. We're all addicted
and
to
let's
something.
be addicted to that beautiful plant, that beautiful plant-like dream that's within our soul.
Be addicted to your dream and you'll make your dream happen. I'm proof. So is Daph, and so are you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. So I'm going to say peace out. I love you to the moon and back, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Recover Your Joy.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. It's been a total